Hello, and welcome to the weekly LinkedIn Leadership Series, Voices of Leadership. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kathy Eastwood, your host, CEO, and founder of Equals Y. Each week, we explore the fascinating world of leadership and we feature voices across different generations, industries, styles, and experiences. Because there's really no right way to be a leader. It's about being authentic and showing up as yourself. So we'll get to meet all different kind of leaders, understand what drives them, what's their unique leadership style, how do they adapt, even maybe what some of their tips and tricks are. But before we get started, what I'd love you to do, there's a chat here. So let's make this as interactive as possible. Please feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're coming from. And I'm going to throw a question out there because I have a feeling we're going to talk about this topic quite a bit. But what is your purpose? What inspires you to get up every morning? So feel free to write that in the chat and we'll introduce our guest as we get started. So our guest today is Terri Maxwell. I am so excited to have you here with us, Terri. Thank you.
Good to be here.
Terri's a remarkable leader, a seasoned entrepreneur, and has grown over 50 brands across a career spanning more than 30 years. Terri and I first met through our shared passion of conscious capitalism, which is all about leading with purpose, engaging stakeholders thoughtfully, and fostering a conscious culture. Terri is an incredible force behind the Share on Purpose portfolio, which includes amazing brands like Shiftco, Ignite on Purpose, Succeed on Purpose, Talent on Purpose, and Promote on Purpose. Each of these companies is a testimony to our commitment to making a real difference in the business world. Now, one thing I absolutely love about Terri is her infectious enthusiasm for helping businesses flourish. It's so compelling that after getting a taste of her approach, I went from being a fan to a fanatic client. And those are terms that she loves to use as well in the business. Terri's been honored with the Outlive Yourself Award and named Small Business Mentor of the Year, which speaks volumes about her impact. Her books like Succeed on Purpose, Everything Happens for a Reason, have inspired countless others to chase success and find meaningful work. Terri blends deep passion, a purpose driven mindset, and a genuine servant leadership in everything she does, enriching every project and client relationship with her wisdom and dedication. So Terri, lots of passion in there, lots of enthusiasm. I every time we talk, I get motivated and inspired. So I am so happy to have you here. Thank you. I think one of the things I always talk about myself. I'm a nurturing driver, but I'd love to hear from you. Tell us a little bit more about Terri and who you are, and how do you show up? What's your leadership style?
My leadership style, I think, was framed in childhood. I grew up in a very, very difficult family. I was abused in every way possible. And the fortitude that took and the vision that created really framed my leadership style. And so I consider myself a visionary leader where to me, the way through is to see the vision that you want. And whether that's in your life or in your business, if you can create a very clear vision of what you want your future to be, it's a lot easier to hit that. So that's what I do with our companies, and that's what I do with our teams. And then the second thing that very difficult childhood gave me is being a servant leader, that realizing that I've been blessed and that I'm fortunate and that I want to give back. And that's what really precipitated my pivot from the traditional business enterprise and venture capital world into the conscious business enterprise and conscious capitalism.
Excellent. So we use the word, like, you and I know the term servant leadership, right? It's something that we're close to it. How do you describe that to other people when we talk about servant leadership?
Yeah, so it's approaching each relationship as a relationship rather than a transaction, and looking for how I can serve rather than how I can take. And as a leader, how that manifests for me is every person that works in our portfolio. What I want to know is, what are your short and long term career aspirations, and how can I help you achieve those? as you are pouring into our companies, I'm going to pour into you so that you can achieve the career goals that you have. And that has been amazing. I mean, the people that lead our brands today grew up, started in entry level roles, and now Michaela in particular is leading, one of our most successful brands. And she's been here about 8 years, but she started in an entry level role. And she felt from day one both that combination of a vision for what your life was like, what you wanted for your life. I'll never forget the day when I said, "You could be president of one of our companies." And I saw her eyes pop wide open. And she thought for a second, what if I could do that? And that what if I could do that is really, I think, how we serve people by showing them a vision of their life, and the way that they're living in the world in a much bigger way.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. Carrie Niles has shared with us seeing every person as a personal relationship versus a transaction. And that is so important because we all are, we spend so much of our time at work, right? And if we're not engaged and we're not having a good time, it's too much.
Right.
I love how you're doing that. And something that you talk about the visionary, and with E equals Y, we focus on what is your end vision, right? That's the first, express your end vision, because then you can empower people to make decisions, right? So if you talk about Michaela, now that she's like, oh, wait, I see where you want to go. I get it. And now you're talking to her and giving her that motivation. It's really powerful.
And when they see themselves where they want to go, like my challenge has always been that my purpose is to inspire potential. So I was put on this earth to inspire people's potential, right? So I'm doing that work that's so important. But the challenge I've always had is I see their potential, but if they can't see their potential, if that self-doubt and imposter syndrome is just chewing away at their sense of self-worth, then there's no way that I can help them reach that potential. So I think the key is helping people really see the vision for themselves as you're creating the vision for the company. And when you can combine those two things, that's where magic shows up.
Yeah. What are some of your tips and tricks? Because, you're right. The fear, uncertainty, and doubt gets in so many people's way of what their potential is. How do you bring that out? So you have the vision is one part of it. How are some other things you bring it out in people?
Well, I use a method that I call the success switch. And is it okay, Kathy? You're familiar with this. Is it okay if we do this with the group? Because this is a game changer, right?
I love
It's
it.
really simple. The success switch is a way to switch a part of your brain. By the way, professional and world class athletes have mastered this. But it's a way to consciously and purposely switch off the part of your brain where the negativity is and switch on the part of your brain that really will step up into that bigger vision. And it's 3 steps. It's very simple. And I try to keep everything simple. So it's ABC. A stands for acknowledge. And so when you say the phrase, the truth is, I feel, whatever is in your subconscious, you say. And so, since we're, for those of you on mute, I want you to do this. Say, the truth is, I feel. And maybe you're tired, or maybe you're scared, or maybe you're anxious. There's so much trauma and drama in the world right now. Maybe you're just feeling anxious. The truth is, I feel anxious. And then just wait about 30 seconds. And what you'll notice is your brain will start to slow down. So the truth is, I feel anxious. Wait, wait about 30 seconds. What's happening is the amygdala, which drives the negative fight or flight aspect of us, starts to shift into neutral. It goes, fifth gear, fourth gear, and you'll feel yourself downshift. And then once you feel like this, wow, I'm in neutral. Wow, that feels different. Then you move to step 2, which is B for breathing. You take 4 breaths in through your nose and out of your mouth. Breath 2, same, in through your nose and out of your mouth. And then breath 3, same thing. You're probably already feeling how this feels. It's amazing. And then breath 4. What happens when you breathe that way is you turn on your your parasympathetic nervous system, and it floods your bloodstream and your brain with the happiness chemicals, serotonin, dopamine. And in particular, it will go into the amygdala, and it kind of like softens it up, and it really allows you to really relax and that's when you move to step 3, which is claiming a new belief. And so my new belief might be, I'm deciding that this is the day that good things are going to happen. You know what? You can claim any belief,
Yep.
but what you're doing is you're programming your amygdala now to have this new belief. And so I teach all of our employees how to do that. Everybody I work with, I teach to do that. It's simple. You do it a couple of times a day. And next thing you know is that those negative thoughts aren't there anymore.
Yeah, and I love it. And we've gone through it together, and you taught me this, and I'm often doing it. And one of the things that I've loved is at the end, because one of the things you said, oh, you can have like some kind of powerful statement or song. So I have my song, This Is My Fight Song by Rachel Platten. And so all I need to do sometimes is just have that song playing, and I'm like, I got this. I can go for it. Yeah, I love it. And it gets, a lot of people will hear me say, focus is your reality. And if you focus on the negative is going to happen. You focus on the positive and you retrain and you switch your brain, it absolutely makes a huge difference. I love it. And as you talk about it, you got that visionary, then you're empowering the people and engaging them the way they need to. That's leadership, is getting people
That's
to
right.
switch over and focus on that goodness.
And I
So,
think that's why programs such as yours are so important, because what I found about leaders is great leaders most of the time are unconscious leaders. So they have natural skills and they don't have a framework for how to do it. And so what happens is a lot of people follow them, but they don't necessarily know how to build leaders because it's unconscious competence. And I think the framework that you've established and why programs like yours are so important is you give people a framework so that if they're already a good leader, they have context and they can repeat it,
yeah.
but more importantly, they can teach others how to really hone their leadership skills.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And one of the things people think, oh, I need to show up a certain way, right? This leader is fantastic. And I need to do that. But reality, it's about showing up and being authentic and being yourself. So I'm sure you don't feel like you're in a box and you have to be a certain way.
No, in fact, most people are surprised when they join Shiftco. They're thinking we're going to tell them exactly how to do things, and we don't, because we believe the right way to do your business is your way. And I think the right way to lead is your way. And again, that's what I love about the flexibility of what you've created is it allows me to be me, but still harness the gifts that are me so that I'm authentic and purposeful and inspiring.
Yeah. No, it's great. So you talked about your childhood, which I appreciate you being vulnerable, because I think you and I both know it is about being vulnerable, being authentic. Talk about some of your other lessons. Like, did you have a really great boss or a really horrible one that helped frame some of this further as you were building your career?
Yeah, what's interesting about that is when you grow up in the kind of environment that I did, you hang on to little things, little angels that are in the world. And so most of my inspiration came from teachers and my grandfather. My grandfather taught me at a young age, you get what you focus on, which was a great story. And I began to really adopt a way of being. And then that way of being, which I don't think I was completely clear on the fact that I was doing it consciously. I was doing it certainly intentionally, but not necessarily, I wasn't aware of it. Then I began to seek out leaders that had what I didn't have. And one of the leaders very early on, her name was Allison, and she had an incredible sense of self worth. And when you grow up like I did my self worth was tiny. I talked big, but I really did not feel worthy on the inside. So I wanted to observe her, and I think I'm a studier of people's behavior, and I really pick those things that show me how to fill a part of my personality that I feel like is missing. And so she was very instrumental. And the second one that was very instrumental, his name was Burl Hogan's, and he was CEO and founder of the educational software company where I really really cut my teeth. It's called Jostens Learning. And what he showed me was how to be a servant leader. And he was amazing in his ability to be compassionate, and to give back. And it took me a long time to emulate some of the things that I learned from both of them, but they were two very important leaders in my life.
Yeah. And so, the servant leader, and I want to bring this up because I think one of the things I really appreciate what you're doing as you help businesses grow is that servant leadership is also for your clients and your customers, right? You see them as your stakeholders, right? And helping them. You're not there to try to make a transaction either.
Right.
So, talk a little bit more about how you bring that servant leadership to your clients as well, because I think it's powerful.
Yeah, and I think about this a lot because people say that, well, those exact words, that they can feel that we and me and those of us in that work in our in Shipco in particular, that we really genuinely care. And so I think the magic of purpose is really the key to that, that my purpose is to inspire potential. So naturally I'm going to do that. And as a result of that, because I'm doing it, I attract other people that want to do it. And so we've created our leadership team is called the member success team. We've created a team of people that are genuinely committed to helping our members have success. And so purpose to me can be a magnet when it's combined with vision, where people can see the vision of the purpose, not just the feel good, but the vision of, wow, just think if we helped 1,000 businesses, achieve their potential, what would that look like? And so I think when you can combine your purpose and what's truly the soulful part of you with a bigger vision, a vision of impact, it attracts other people. And then when you attract other people, it really becomes real at that point.
Yeah. And I think that's why I was so drawn to you and the business and all of that is that purpose is what fuels so much of what we do on a daily basis. Right? I think leaders have a choice. They can either lead by fear or they can really pull out someone's passion and grow them and help them move forward in what they're doing.
And I think that's why it's so important. Self awareness is so important, as a leader, that what that purposeful calling is. You know what's really meaningful to you. And business objectives aside, I mean, I love growing businesses. I love the metrics. I love the board. I love investing. I love all of the things that I do that are the businessy side of it. But the none of it matters if we're not making an impact. And when I made my shift from traditional business to jumping into this world of conscious business, gosh, it's hard to believe it was 15 years ago. When I made that shift, I never looked back and I said, I never want to do business in a transactional way. I still want to be driven to hit goals and I still want to build financially successful businesses, but I want them to have a reason for being and to do things that matter.
Yeah, and you use a word, and you and I have used it a couple of times of being a builder. And you're similar that you run to the fire, you get things done. But I think you've really tempered it with that purpose and finding that connection with other people. Did you consciously make that shift?
I didn't. I have a note to myself that reminds me, these are my what I call my soulful intentions, to keep my priorities in order, because that as a builder, I love building. And whether I'm investing in a company that we're building like Izzy Beauty, or I'm helping people grow like we do in Shifco, that builder can take over, because the builder persona is a part of our ego. It's a part of our human, it's a part of the gifts that I have, but it can get out of whack. And so I remind myself every day that my soulful intention and my priority is to live my purpose and make a difference. And so it's a way to kind of gauge that builder persona, to keep my priorities in order. And for me, how that manifests is I want to build things that matter, that inspire potential, as opposed to just kind of hammer down and building things. And it is very, very easy, to get those out of whack. And I have a note, that I look at when, it's one of those, oh yeah, I'm doing it again. I got to slow down, downshift, do my ABCs, downshift, so that I can keep my priorities in order.
So you have the proactive view of it in the morning, and when it's on there and you can feel it. Do you share this with others and give them permission to say, hey, if I'm going into that mode?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
'Cause
And I think that that's part of being a great leader is being approachable and people knowing that they can give you that feedback and that you'll take that feedback. They also know that if I don't agree, I'm going to say I don't agree. We call that conscious conflict. It's one of the tools that we teach. But they need to feel safe to give you that feedback, and I need to receive that feedback, and then I can say, okay, yes, you're right about the way that I'm approaching it. And I also want to make sure that we still hit this goal for these reasons. And as long as I give the why behind the what, most of the time people realize that, it's not that I'm just kind of running over things, which I have a tendency to do. But they need to be able to speak up and tell me. And fortunately, our leadership team feels very safe in doing that.
Yeah. Well, and if you have people that are with you for a long period of time and stay with you, it's easy because you build that trust. Right. And, I look at it as I'm similar to you. And when I get stressed, that's when it ekes out. Right. So I'm suddenly looking at it and I know I'm like, it's like an outer body. I'm like, oh, there's that person I don't like. I'm like, okay. And so I really talk to my team. I'm like, it's happening. I know it is. I'm sorry. I don't mean it, but they know that I will come back around and they call me on it, right? They're like, Kathy, you're there again. I'm like, I know. Okay.
And I think when you have that kind of relationship, and we can laugh about it, I think to me, it makes business more fun.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I have it with my family. They have the persona. It's Agnes. It's a character from a TV show, The Gilded Age, who has to have control, and that's our persona. They're like, Agnes, you need to calm down. I'm like, all right, I will. I got
I'm
it.
going to pull that out, Kathy. I'm like, you're going Agnes on me here.
Exactly. But on the other side of it, what I'm able to say to them, I'm like, Agnes is really stressed at the moment and you need to help me. And so it takes the personal, it doesn't feel as personal when you're doing
Right.
that. It's that persona that's out there. Um, so when you're coaching other leaders, what are some of the tips and tricks that you share with them that beyond? I know you have a whole bag full of things, but if you were to say, this is the most important thing you could do, what are some things you
I,
would advise?
I think it's why the success switch I think is so important. Nothing works unless you're calm and steady. And if you really think about the great examples of leadership in the world, whether it was Sully who landed that plane, they're able to move themselves into a calm state in a situation that you should not be calm in, right? So I really feel like that's the go-to one is the success switch and using the ABCs and doing them proactively, not just when you're stressed, but doing them proactively. And then I think the second thing is asking for feedback, 360 feedback. So I do a 360 on myself every year or two. And I really gauge how I'm being perceived versus how I think I'm being perceived. I have open dialogues with the things that I'm working on. And I feel like the ability for you to be focused on your self development inspires others. And then the last thing is to assume positive intent. One of the best
Mhm.
pieces of advice that I ever got, because I have a little judgment part of my brain, and I that little girl that was victimized, thinks someone's taking advantage of me or they're going to hurt me or something like that. And that presence that we have from the drama and trauma that's in the world can sometimes cause us to misperceive what people's intentions are. So that phrase, I have a calendar reminder every morning that comes up to assume positive intent. And so when I'm in some type of a building conflict with somebody, if I can just shift and say, okay, let me assume positive intent here. What if they're simply trying to get their needs met or something along those lines? If I can shift to that, it creates the space for us to have a better relationship and a way to talk through whatever the potential conflict is.
Yeah, I love that. So I use the phrase no one wakes up with bad intent, but I like yours as the assume. And I grew up with my father would be saying, you need to walk a mile in someone else's moccasins before you can really know what kind of day they're having. And it is very powerful when you really put yourself in their shoes and you go, oh, I get it, right? Like someone shows up and they're caring for their elderly parent, their child is sick. You know, there's a million and one things going on. And our ego sometimes gets in the way of assuming it's all about us when they're like, yeah, whatever going on with you. This is all about me. Like, and what am I dealing with? So I
And I
think,
think that assume positive intent as a leader is paramount, and teaching your organization to do that will have a lot less conflict in your organization. And when you have less conflict and friction, it is a lot easier to achieve your goals.
yeah, I agree. And it goes back to that trust, right? And building that. But I think, and you talk about the servant leadership, I think the other thing that comes out often and what I've seen you do is speaking the other person's language, right? So you have your way of showing up, right? You're the builder and you're going to get there, but not everyone else gets to the same point the same way.
That's correct. And I
So,
learned that from my grandfather. My grandfather again was my first mentor. And when he passed away, he left me a note in his belongings in an envelope that was very touching. And he said, I taught you that you get what you focus on, but there's another lesson that you really need to understand. You also get what you give. And you really need to be very present for the fact that you want to really understand what it is that people need so that you can give them things of value. And wow, that really, really stayed with me, because it's very easy to get caught up in our own stuff. So you get what you focus on, but you also get what you give. And I think that's truly the hallmark of the way that I lead, with vision and also being a servant leader.
yeah, I love it. And yeah, when you meet someone that has the same values and the same purpose and passion, it's just like, yep, yep, I'm right there. And but that is what leadership is, right? When you want to show up, you want to work with someone, you want to give extra, right? Because in this day and age, I mean, I think the number is over 67% of employees are unengaged. That's scary.
It's very scary. And that inefficiency eats away at profits. And then when your profits get diluted, you're not able to make the kind of impact that you want to make. And the irony is, it's not that hard to fix engagement if you really can do some of these things that you're talking about. And what your business really helps people do is really getting at the heart, and having a framework for what leadership is, because people are people. You don't have to have gimmicks to get people engaged. What you have to do is you have to care about them. You have to figure out what it is that they want. You have to make sure that they have what they need to be successful. And that's what I love about E equals Y, is that framework really helps companies um, operationalize leadership so that you can achieve the objective with your team and ultimately with your business.
Yeah, that's the goal. And it's funny. We were just doing a talk last week in Reno, and it was about you don't have to spend a lot of money to be able to do this, right? You can ignite this kind of culture by just showing up, asking people how are they feeling, what's going on, and you feel good, right? Showing gratitude. These are all things that cost zero.
Right.
And I get it, companies are worried about profitability and survival, right? Sometimes it's not even profitability, sometimes it's survival, but your leaders are the ones that are driving your business and you're putting your business in their hands. So it's absolutely great. Now, Terri, you have given us a ton of tidbits here and nuggets that have been absolutely fantastic. If people want to learn more about Shifco, I'm going to ask my chief of staff to put it in the chat for us. But I think it is someone, you really are someone that is inspiring and engaging people and helping them grow the business. And I think a lot of people can benefit from that. So thank you very much for joining us. And I also am going to do a little bit of a pitch. So if anyone's interested In the E3 Leadership Bootcamp, we're actually having one starting on October 9th, to really find your authentic self and show up and be able to work better with others. Any last parting thoughts as we leave, Terri?
No, I would just say, Kathy, thank you and your team for the work that you're doing. It is so important. Leadership is what is going to get us through these tumultuous times. And I believe that business, particularly business that is a force for good, is going to be the solution that we need to live in a better world. So thank you so much for the work you and your team do.
And right back at you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next week. Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.